1971, Chile. The British scholar and cybernetician Stafford Beer came to the country for his first time to meet face-to-face with the newly elected socialist president, Salvador Allende. During the first year of Allende's presidency, the prior task for nationalization was to fundamentally and ideologically change the structure of Chile's economy, where Beer's theory of cybernetics was found fascinated by Allende's technocrats. The meeting between Beer and the president went quite well. Beer explained his work in management cybernetics and the viable system model, the model which was based on the study of human neurosystem. Allende, who was once a pathologist, immediately grasped the biological inspiration for the cybernetic model and nodded knowingly throughout. The model consisted of 5 systems of operation and management. At the bottom of the hierarchy, individual plants within each enterprise interacted with the outside environment and through the flows of material inputs and outputs generated low-level, System 1 production indices. System 2 transmitted these production indices to the various plants and upward toward the Director of Operations, which was called System 3. While the lower 3 systems controlled the daily operation of production, the upper one, System 4, required the creation of a new level of management dedicated to development and future planning that would provide a space for discussion and decision-making. This is where the IPSROM was born. Designed by Guy Bossip, this futuristic space offered the unique look of Chilean socialist modernity. The room was designed a hexagon, where the tulip chairs were set in a circle to make sure the process of decision-making be democratic. On each side of the walls, the data feed screens showed the instantly updated diagrams and information of the current production operation. The visualization of the information and data was carefully designed to increase comprehension by using color, size and movement, and by reducing text content while also keeping it legible. Instead of using traditional keyboards, IPSROM team designed a series of big hand buttons as the input mechanism that one could thump to emphasize a point. Beer insisted on applying the simple geometric shape for that it represented typical working-class character rather than government elite. When Beer finally explained the System 5 to the President Allende, he took a big, honest breath and said, "This, Comrade President, is you." Allende smiled very broadly and said, "Ah, System 5, at last, the people." The purpose of using cybernetics in the revolution of Chilean economic structure was not to create a totalitarian control over the state economy. Allende was hoping to establish a nationalized economic production that was both centralized and decentralized, where people could play their role to reflect on the entire system while also stay limitedly in their own group, which was exactly what his idealistic socialism was about, and also exactly Beer's belief in cybernetics. They named this revolution Project Cybersyn. To make sure that the people could fully participate in the variable model system, Beer revised his theory to a recursive system where the feedbacks from each worker or manager of each plant, company or organization in the production enterprises would function to help build a self-corrective system. Even more, he and his technical team composed a series of songs, slogans, radio and television programs, or even animations to raise the propaganda of Project Cybersyn. They created a system of algedonic metering, which literally means pleasure and pain, and asked workers to simply choose between the two to respond and to reflect in the process of production. The algedonic metering was not first applied in plants or factories, but in political polling, in which the general public could tell whether they were pleasant or not after watching a television speech of a politician or a candidate. Or otherwise, a worker could directly participate from the planning of production to the final end, by using algedonic metering to give a technical feedback to the designer before the product was put into manufacturing. It would be idealistic if the people of System 1, 2 and 3 could immediately be part of the decision-making process. For this reason, Project Cybersyn was extremely revolutionary that it altered the relationship between workers, managers, designers and engineers in the management of production operation. Project Cybersyn aimed to balance the strength of the collective interest and the individual freedom. However, through the entire variable system model, the democratic socialist purpose of this cybernetic project was in fact contradictorily hierarchical. Just like the UPS-ROM, which seemed democratically circular, nonetheless only allowed bureaucrats and experts to enter. Moreover, during the operation of System 1 to 3, workers were still asked to gain certain professional knowledge and to be trained by expertise, so that they would be rationally informed and efficiently respond. The military coup in 1973 suddenly stopped the ongoing project. But the failure of it was not that simple. In Beer's theory, the time lapse between the emergence of a crisis and the gathering of the information of that crisis lagged the decision to react, which could be immediately corrected in the system of cybernetics. But by the time of 1972, Chilean government only occupied one single computer and the transmission of information could only be achieved via telex system, and in that way, the time lag was not able to be shortened. But when we look back from the 21st century, in a world where we have internet to connect, where we have the information flow of the big data, where we have equipment and devices in hand, and where we are able to gain maximum amount of information, in an extremely short time, and on an extremely small-sized platform. We have already altered the relationships between workers, managers, designers and engineers. Every one of us is at the same time all of them. Today, we have achieved what Allende and Beer dreamt to do in the 1970s in Chile. And all we need to act is to choose between pleasure and pain. In the future, our office will be one single server, our offices will be every corner of the planet, and our job is to recognize our own intrinsic reaction in the flow of big data, and to click the button of pleasure or pain. A technical utopia has arisen.